Oh, I got all the books ready to go now.
Cool. I have things open here as well. I've been taking notes with the comics these days as well, you know?
Well, look at you.
Yeah,
I do as little as possible.
Because there's stuff I don't want to forget, you know?
Yeah, I forget stuff all the time. And sometimes we're barreling like a freight train. I'm like, I'm not going back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like last week, we go through the whole show. We did everything on the main show, that is. And then we forgot to mention that Secret Invasion started this week.
Right. The other one that we didn't mention, and it happened like a half hour after we did the show, was John Romita Sr. died.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't even end up putting in the notes for the main show. We're talking about it now, so we're talking about it now. But, obviously, he's an older guy.
90s.
Yeah, you don't know how anyone is doing. And then it was literally as I was editing the show, I saw the news going out and rolling out. And it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll get the news story tomorrow. And then, even though there's not a ton of news for this week, but John Romita Jr. is awesome,
Yep.
One of the best, one of the most iconic Marvel artists of all time. And not what we typically talk about on After Dark, but here we are, Yep,
definitely one of the Mount Rushmore of Spider-Man artists.
Yeah. Obviously it's one of those things where I could say something about Romita and, be right, be wrong, whatever it is, but he had a longevity and left a mark on a character, on a company,
mm-hmm.
And this is meant to be the praise that it's intended to. Obviously, we've talked before about the DC style guides by Jose
Luis Garcia Lopez.
Right. So obviously, Romita Jr. didn't do everyone in the Marvel universe, but I think for the era, the 60s, the people that he did, they're his versions are the most iconic versions of them. When you think of Marvel characters from the 60s, it's probably, if it's not a Steve Ditko or a Jack Kirby, it's a John Romita Jr.
Yeah, I would say he was the default look for merchandise until the Bagley era.
Right. So you're talking what a good 30-year run almost.
Yeah, probably. It was Spider-Man's on something. It was him.
Right. Hulk's
and
on
I
something.
Could be wrong.
Cap's on something. Whomever.
Yep.
And it's not like he was a bad artist. He was a very much of an artist of the style of the day and the age and everything else, but he was also a remarkable artist in that you could pick his stuff out of a lineup. Yep.
And I mean, you're the Spider-Man guy. I know, I wouldn't even dare, but I know who John Romita Sr. is,
Yeah, when his kid got into the business, and his kid now, as we talk here, huh?
Kid, I know it's his kid, but I think he's 60-some.
Right, but that's what I was going to say. His kid, in his own right, has been, doing comics for the better part of 40 years.
Yeah.
So, we say a kid, but he's another one who's got, obviously not the same style as his dad. And I like, Romita Jr. just as well. Obviously his stuff was more late 90s or late 80s, early 90s sort of stuff. And he still kind of sort of draws in that way today, which is, fine. The fancy coloring and the fancy inking kind of gives it a little bit more of a modern look. But he's definitely an old-time artist.
Yeah.
And I think as we record this, it's Dan Jurgens' birthday I saw floating around online today.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I think I put Romita Jr. in that same bucket as a Dan Jurgens type, where, obviously so much of Marvel's style parted and changed and whatever, but so did DC in the late 80s, early 90s, where, your X people looked like what would become Image comic type stuff, right?
Right.
And then there was a time when, like, okay, well, Image Comics is hot, so now, like, everything's going to kind of morph into that look, whether it fits or not. And more times than not, when they tried to put that sort of look on a Fantastic Four or an Avengers or whatever, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And they always went back to more of a classic style. And then same thing over at DC, where, you know, for the most part, Jurgens was the house style for Superman and Superman-related titles.
Yeah, he's my definitive Superman artist, is Jurgens.
Yeah, 100%. You know, there's not to say that there hasn't been a ton of great artists on Superman over the last, like, 30, 40 years, but when I think of my Superman, I think of a Dan Jurgens drawn mulleted Superman.
Not so much the mullet, but man, oh man, that he did a crisp Superman. I just love his stuff and everything else that he did. There was something about, I know, like, I'm thinking like Dan Jurgens cheekbones on Superman, you know? It was like, he was a handsome man when you saw Superman. But
yeah, and I didn't throw it in the notes as well that, like, After Dark this week gets to be less, you know, and not to say that we won't get into a how was your week sort of thing. Right. But they announced the casting for the Jimmy Pistols
Superman Legacy
Superman movie. Yeah.
I looked at it and I saw Superman and Lois as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, and so where I run into an issue with this is I don't know who those actors are.
That almost might be a good thing for us.
Yeah.
Because we won't have any preconceived notions.
Right. I won't go in and think like, oh, so-and-so, and I just have it here. David Cornswet, which is a terrible name.
Right. I like my corns dry, Joe. Mm-hmm. You could write that down for the title.
I'm doing it as we speak.
Yep.
And then Rachel Brosnahan.
Okay, that one I don't know either.
Right, so I don't know who either of these people are. But you know, get a corn sweat here on a cycle, you know, and he'll be in Superman shape in no time.
I hope so.
Now I'll throw this out there. Both of these folks. Corn Sweat was born in 1993, and Brosnahan was born in 1990.
Right.
So it's kids playing these parts.
You know what though? At least I will say this: they're in the age of what I would like. My brain has Superman and Lois at is like, to me, Superman and Batman are eternally 33.
Yeah.
Because any younger than that, like, that's Batman year one, Superman year one. But, like, aged perfection, like, height of powers, Superman, Batman is 33 to 35 tops. And they fit into it. Because then, like, even when we watched The Flash on CW, which I was fine with, I loved the show. Like, when you have 24-year-old superheroes, especially, like, the Gold Star ones that were Golden Age era. I just feel it's way too young and it skews angsty youngster, but I'm an old man yelling at a cloud. So
right. I'll say your Superman, your Batmans, your stuff like that should be, depending on the time that you're telling the story, no younger than 29.
Yep.
And like no older than like 35, and like for a modern tale.
Right, unless you're doing like The Dark Knight Returns or something.
Or Kingdom Come, or a Year One story, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, the Marvel characters, for the most part, you know, and Spider-Man is my, you know, whatever, but, like, Spider-Man should be, like, mid-20s, like 26, 27, and no older than, like, 33.
And I like my Reed Richards at 35 and my Sue Storm at 16. That's right. Like the way it should be. But no.
So looking the two of these actors up, he was in a couple things. Nothing that I'm even aware of or have seen. Like, it was a TV show like from 2 years ago called Hollywood that he was in. And another TV show from a year or two ago called The Politician.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in another TV show called We Own This City.
Right.
Right, so it looks like he's primarily a TV actor. And again, what exactly is a TV actor in 2023, right?
Yeah, that. There was a time when they were different, but that's a whole different show.
Right, and I'm sure people were yelling at us as we were going over all of this. But the young lady who's playing Lois, Rachel Brosnahan, she is Miss Maisel in the TV show The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yes, which was I get like a hit, I think it won awards and everything. Like I want to watch that. It looks like really good. But that she'll be your star. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She'll be like the one who carries the acting chops, while the other guy stands around in a pair of tights, and looks good.
Hopefully tights and flights.
Right. And like I said, I don't know. It wasn't enough to put in the main news, but we're talking about stuff that missed the main news, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Rob seems to be off for the summer for his podcast.
Right.
I don't think there was an official announcement, but there hasn't been a new episode in 2 weeks.
I think he's on the Keith Giffen schedule.
Let's hope that the Rob has decided that getting that Deadpool book out on time, which is still a 6-week schedule, is more important than him fucking around on his podcast.
Definitely. Because if the Rob is about anything, the Rob is about deadlines.
He's about making that money, making that scratch.
Right. Maybe not deadlines, just lines.
He's living those lines. But no updates from Salty Keith,
moving and
I don't know if he's packing, if he's unpacking. I don't know what the hell he's doing, right?
Yep. He's probably playing that Pirate Island game or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
What was the game? I don't remember. You know what it is.
Dead Rising 3.
Yep, that's probably all he's doing. He's like, I'm done with this podcast. I'm Dead Rising 3,
Right. So yeah, that's and I guess that's for stuff that we missed in the news or updates there. So how was your week?
It was an uneventful week. I did nothing. Nothing. And I liked it. I did a little comic stuff around the house as we're talking comics, but that's about it.
Gotcha. Had an eventful week, I guess. Here the toilet was making noises. Right. So I'm like, well, something's loose or like this is something going on, right? So I don't know how familiar you are with the inner workings of a turlet.
Yeah.
Okay. An emphatic yeah.
Yep.
The Flushmaster, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking it's a bit on the Flushmaster. And we did have a couple spares of those because, like, you can't just buy one. You have to buy, like, packs of, like, 2 or 3 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, maybe there's, like, a crack in it. Maybe it's worn down. Maybe it's whatever. Okay. So I replace that. It's still making the noise. So, okay, I got to go get a whole new Flushmaster, which is still no big deal. Those are, like, $10, whatever. Not in weekly purchases. Maybe it will be. But replacing those, it's like you got to turn off the water. You got to drain the toilet. You got to do all this stuff. And the way that our toilet is, it doesn't like the water to the toilet because of the pressure. We had to sit there for like ever and wait for all the pressure to get out of the hose before we could finally go ahead and do it. Replace that, no problem. But it was just a pain in the ass. It took up like my Saturday morning where... what the hell was going on Friday? I don't know if there was something going on Friday. Oh, yeah. So Friday, we took the kids, and by kids, I mean Asa and a bunch of nieces and nephews to the Crayola factory.
Okay, cool.
Which we haven't been to the Crayola factory in at least 4 years, maybe more.
Get a deal on those tickets at all, or?
Yeah, you order them online. I don't know if you're making a joke or, like, I don't know.
No, like in the morning, because I listen to the news a little bit when I go to get my breakfast. Yeah. And they have like, I don't know if it was on the radio, like through whatever the talk radio is around here, buy one get one half off, or it was one free. I forget. So
yeah, I don't know nothing about that. I know if you order them online, you get like $3 off, and then
this was a sweet deal. It was like they're like through WILK, like they'll do sales on things, like, you know what I mean, like promotional. And Crayola was like this week or this month. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I missed out on that one, so I got fleeced there. But like I said, I saved the $3 from getting it online, and then another $3 per ticket, because of like whatever like promo code I was able to scam onto it as well, right? So we go, and that was a busy day. It was like we left at like 8:30 in the morning, and then we had to go up to Shikshini for one of the kids' birthday parties. We were there late. We recorded Red Sonja for the Patreon show. Go sign up for the Patreon. And just because it was a long day and I was beat, I'm like, I'm going to sleep for 12 hours on Saturday. And then like the shit with the toilet came up, right? Mm-hmm. So then on top of all that, we're like, all right, well, it's like raining off and on, but like not enough for whatever. Lawn needs to be mowed. It's been like 2 weeks since I mowed the lawn. It's been 2 weeks since we had rain. Right. And then like last week we had a ton of rain, so it's like, all right, well now the lawn really needs to be mowed. But let me do the dishes a little bit first. So I'm doing the dishes, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what's going on here? Like I thought I like missed the sink and splashed some water or whatever. Apparently, just from like gradual going underneath the sink, bumping into the pipe for the trap, just water all over the place, just pouring out underneath the sink, right? Mm-hmm. So now that's a whole other thing. We got to clean everything out. Got to get the pipe wrench, tighten that up, test it out, and make sure, because I don't want to like pour Drano and shit down that sink. But it was just one of those things where just like gradually going underneath the sink. It's like, oh, that's where like, the dishwashing stuff is, and that's where the garbage bags are, and that's where the this is, and that's where the that is, and just going underneath there and just bumping it slightly was enough to just like loosen it up, because like I had to like hand tighten it first to get it to stop pouring the water out, right? And then I had to give it like a good like full turn with the wrench to like stop anything from coming out. But it was just a mess. It was just like a ton of water all over our kitchen that we had to clean up. Yep. And I'm
Joe the plumber.
Yeah, well, listen, I have it in my blood. I'm the only one in my family that didn't get into it from my dad and my grandfather and my brothers and stuff. But I have enough osmosis knowledge from them to like fix shit that's easy,
Right.
But that's it, and then I was like, okay, now we get to mow the lawn, and then we're running around. We had people over, and then it was like super hot on Sunday down here.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just a busy weekend.
I have a question for you that's not related to this, like anything you did, but what might be coming up. I know you said you did it once. I don't remember if you told me you were doing it again this year. But isn't there a pokey thing in New York?
There is.
Okay, because I asked because you might be getting a text from the guy's house you want to rob for art.
Yes.
Because he's going, and I was like, oh, Joe goes.
Oh, okay.
And went, and I think he's going this year, but I wasn't 100% sure if you told me that. So I don't know, like, he might have questions or seeing if your guys are going to be there at the same time,
Right. So the thing is, it's a 3-day event.
Yep.
But it's like and again, I got into it on At Odds this past week, but the very long story short of it is we're not doing all 3 days. We're just doing 1 day, and it's like 3 of us, like me, my wife, and my son all play. So that's like 3 $25 tickets. Right. And we had gotten the tickets before like they did the price increase. And I think it's like $30 tickets now.
Yeah.
But if you do there's like no deal if you get like, well, I'm going to go all 3 days. I'm going to get all 3 days, so it's a discount. No, it's not.
No, I'm just saying, like, because I know I'm not saying he wants to hang out or whatever, but he like I don't know what he knows about it, but he's taking his daughter, I think, for the first time. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, maybe, you know, if you had, like, I'm not saying grill you, but if you had a question, Joe might know. And he's like, oh, is this still his text? I was like, yeah. If not, DM him. So he might be hitting you up. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So the time that we went to New York last year, it was just for, like, it wasn't like the big event, right? Mm-hmm. Because, like, they have like twice a month. They have like community day things, right? Mm-hmm. And we just decided, like, oh, it's the summer, it's a nice weekend, let's like do New York. We'll do the community day that happens everywhere in the world, but we're just happen to be in New York because Niantic, Nintendo have a presence there, and like you just get like a bunch of like handout freebies, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But this is different than those community days. This is Go Fest specifically, right?
Okay.
They do it 2 or 3 times a year, but the problem is because Pokemon is so big across the world, this is the first time that it's been back in the United States. Back in the United States on the East Coast since the pandemic.
Got ya.
They had one scheduled for April of 2020 in Philly. And even though it was outdoor, they still did it. But I didn't feel comfortable traveling like a month into the pandemic or 2 months into the pandemic, right?
Right, and they might have curtailed sales, you know what I mean?
Right, or whatever it was, but like they do it like this year it's Tokyo, London, and New York, okay? Right. Where like last year it was like Brazil, Seattle, and
Glasgow.
Or wherever, right? So this is the first time that it's in the United States on the East Coast in 4 years, so we're like, we're doing it, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
So I have no idea what to expect.
All right, I might have mixed up the stuff. I don't know.
No, you didn't mix up the stuff. It's just like our friend who we're not naming and I are on the same wavelength with that sort of stuff. Right. And then he's attempting to have a conversation with you about something that you don't know anything about other than the word Pokemon.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to answer the questions. Mm-hmm. That you have no idea what any of it means or care. So
right. Oh, I do care. Can't you tell? The caring is, you can hear it in my voice.
Oh, I certainly can. So hopefully he and the family are going the same day and time that we are, because that's another thing is, because it's such a big thing,
yep.
They break you up into groups. They run it like 3 times a day.
Blocks, yeah.
Yeah, there's like a 9 to 1 block, a 2 to 6 block, and then another block at night, like whatever the nighttime block is. Mm-hmm. And then because it's so big, it's taking place in Central Park, and then it's like Central Park East or Central Park West. Mm-hmm. So like we got the 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday on Central Park East. Why did I pick Central Park East? I don't know. Just that's.
Right. Because it's close to that good pizza place.
Right. Well, I don't know. We're going to find out. So we're still going to get there kind of early, get a decent parking spot, explore the city a little bit, get there in time so we don't have to worry about, like, rushing for parking when it's time for our time there to begin, you know?
Yeah. And you're going to stop at Midtown and see what kind of comics they have.
I hear they have comics. I don't know. Yeah. I have enough comics here.
Yeah, I heard you were selling them.
Well, we're going to see. So allegedly, we're going to partake in the street-wide yard sale that's going on on our street this weekend. Now, that's the discussion. So whether or not we actually do or do not is another story. But I do not nearly have as many comics to unload this year, if we do, as I did like when I did it 2 years ago. You know, I think I had like 4 short boxes that I'm just like, this is the end of this is the end of 3 other people's collections. Mm-hmm. Just get them out of here. And now I maybe got Ash short box of stuff.
Right. I'll be down with my many, many, many comics I need to sell.
Right. Okay. I'll give you a spot on the table, you know.
Get a cut of the fucking money, yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Right. We'll see. Yeah, I think that's An eventful show, Joe. Look at that.
Oh, so last but not least, we'll wrap this up here with the and again, a lot of talk about the other shows and everything else. Whatever is what After Dark is for, to get this shit out of the way. So for the At Odds Patreon, I did an interview with our mutual friend Ultramantis Black.
Yes, good buddy. Yeah.
Right, and I had said that his dream, or I said that your dream, is to get the worker handshake from him.
Right. I'm sure that went over big.
And I told the story on that show about the time that you got the worker handshake from Sean Waltman.
2-time WWE Hall of Famer Sean Waltman. Put some respect on it, Joe.
And so again, it's just that you need to create the like you needed to like, you know, because obviously like it's Hall of Famer, but then like Mantis was like the last one who still gives that handshake, you know.
Right. I have to bridge that gap.
Right, and it was on the show, and I think it made it in. I don't know. There was parts that didn't make it in. I could talk about it here because, like, you know, it's small, and there's no way Mantis is going to listen to this. So we're talking about that, and I say, oh well, I go, the only way it could happen is Todd has to come to a show. I go, but Todd is waiting to come to a show because of
skinny jeans.
Okay, skinny jeans, perfect, right? So, we're talking about skinny jeans. We're talking about like how he always says he wants to go, and then he ends up going to like other wrestling shows. And Mantis is like, he's like, I kind of take that as a slight, right?
Right.
And I go, listen, I'm making a goal to you that once the publicity starts for the summer shows and like there's flyers and everything else like that, every time that I tweet something out, like my little like quippy whatever, I'm going to tag him in whatever it is, every single one until he shows up at a show. Right.
Right.
And then we said his working name on the show.
Oh, no.
And
you trash shoot, Joe.
Right. Well, no. Okay. So, not the name that we know him by. You said Skinny Jeans, right?
Right. No, you mean his Christian
not the name that's
right?
on his license.
Oh, okay.
You follow what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That's his shoot name. His working name is pretty known, and again, obviously, I don't know if you're in his Discord server. I think you know his shoot name as well, right?
Right. I mean, it's not like it's hidden. It's Wikipedia has it, so.
Wikipedia?
Oh, look at that.
So, I say his name, the working name, and then after we're done recording, Mantis is like, I feel bad. Could you beep out his name?
Oh.
So there's an awkward beep in there when we're talking about him. And that's who it is. We were talking about someone, and again, if we've mentioned it many a times, if you're familiar with our stuff and that sort of genre of music, and people who've done independent wrestling shows or know who performs AEW superstar Darby Allin's music or anything like that, then you know who we're talking about. But Mantis is like, I feel bad, beep it out, you know?
Yeah, and I would like to think that someday I'll become a wrestling game, and it's like 6 worker handshakes to Todd Roker, like 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
If you've shook this person's hand, and that person shook that person's hand, and then it's only so many worker handshakes to me.
Right.
So.
All right, so I guess that's it for After Dark, right?
Yeah, it was a long and amazing After Dark.
Was it long? No, it's about the same time. If we start wrapping it up now, it's about the same time as all the other ones, you know?
It felt long in a good way.
Oh, there you go. So, hey, longboxheroes.com, soon to be named network.com, patreon.com/longboxheroes. The eBay affiliate thing, and TeePublic store. That's, tell a friend. I don't know. Do whatever it is you got to do, All right, everyone. Thanks very much for listening. I'm pretty sure I hit record, and we'll see y'all here. We'll see y'all here next week.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.